You're listening to the Ringer NBA show presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook has made it easier than ever to get in on the action during an NBA playoff game, even after tip-off. Just look for the live SGP tab on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and build your bet slip. Then sit back, relax, and track the outcome of your parlay right in the app. And if you don't already have it, download the FanDuel app today to make every moment more. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
What's poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdoch here. Howard back there. Sam Amick is with us. We were laughing at Howard because he looks like he's at a public access show right now. He looks like he's doing a you're doing a call bank. Where are you at right now, Howard? What's going on?
Before you start just mocking everything with the surroundings here, I'm in Amy Poehler's fucking studio, dude. This is Amy Poehler's studio.
Oh,
all right?
Shit.
Have a little respect.
Oh, shit. Michelle Obama was just in there, right? Didn't they, Michelle Obama? Then they packed it up so you could get in there, right? Okay, my bad.
Just behind this curtain behind me is Amy Poehler's backdrop.
Prove it. Prove it right now. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Tear that shit down. What we got?
I don't think Bell and the rest of the production crew here would appreciate me yanking on the curtains. But trust me, this is Amy Poehler's studio. Our esteemed colleague. Frankly, this is she's our coworker. It's coming to the barbecue and stuff.
Yeah, it's real celebrity shit, Sam. You know what I mean? That's what we do over here at Spotify.
I mean, I was just Howard. Since you and I are the older dudes on the pod, Logan's not going to remember this reference. Remember the old Conan O'Brien segment when he would go spotlight to the face and in the year 2000.
Yeah, right. You mean before Logan was born? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That's
you guys want to know how old I was in 2000? Do you guys really want to know?
Please
months.
Tell us, Logan. Tell us how accomplished you are at your young age.
I was entering second grade in the fall of 2000.
Jeez.
So
killing me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember I remember that there was the Y2K was a thing. My parents were scared, and we fell asleep at 9, so we didn't have to go through our doom death. And then we woke up and everything was fine.
It was fine. Yeah.
And everything worked out. So we were good. Anyways, speaking of doom deaths, I guess, I don't know. Let's talk NBA, man. We got Sam here. Let's just go right into it. We already talked about, you can go to another podcast to just get the full recap of what's going on with the Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're here to talk news and off-season and evergreen shit for the offseason. Let's start with Giannis Adetokounmpo, Sam, because, you seem to be a guy that is locked in on everything Giannis related. I'm going to start by saying this real quick, and me and you have both reported on this since this is both of our backyards. It doesn't seem at this point that the Golden State Warriors are in the Giannis sweepstakes. I don't think that they will be necessarily. Not that they don't necessarily want to, but more so they just don't have the assets to get him. And I think that there was a big brouhaha. You wrote about it. I wrote about it, about Giannis and Steph hanging out at the All-Star game. There was at least from what I heard, I'm sure you heard the same thing. There was a feeling that Giannis was very, very intrigued by the idea of one day being a teammate of Steph Curry. There was at least a feeling of, that Giannis wanted to play with Steph in the very near future and be teammates with him. At least that was the impression that a lot of officials got during that soiree. Talk about the Warriors' chances, and then I want to cede the floor to you really quickly, Sam. Who are we know the teams are San Antonio, Houston, and OKC are teams that are just in the mix for maybe his services should he actually officially request a trade, which is a good, interesting note there. But talk about the Warriors' point of view and then the three teams' point of view and where they stand in the sweepstakes of Giannis Adetokounmpo, who, by the way, has not yet officially requested a trade.
No, and I appreciate you saying that last part. We can write it until the cows come home. It feels like the world has already overlooked that part. You know what I mean? And before I even dive into your question and the answer, we'll also give context that while I'm all in on the idea that yes, to a degree, it is the summer of Giannis and might continue to be so. For anybody to act like this is the first time we've had questions about Giannis's future in Milwaukee, we're forgetting all the subplots here. Every time he had a contract, every time they fell short of the championship, I'm going to put the over-under at 3. I don't remember exactly how many there were. Like, Giannis has never been Mr. 10 toes down in Milwaukee, no matter what. It has been in the offseason. I'm going to talk to John Horst, the GM. I'm going to talk to my people, see what I think. And so this has been something they've been going through for the better part of a decade. They traded for Drew Holiday to help that cause. They traded for Damian Lillard to help that cause. So now here we are. To me, in terms of, how this is going to go and how the landscape looks, it's those teams you mentioned. I mean, we can, I guess, run through them real quick. To me, Houston, we reported this last week. They're, 100% going to look hard at it if it is a possibility. He is perhaps the only guy that, probably on top of their list when you talk about age, talent, timeline, all of that stuff. All the talk about Kevin Durant in Houston, Kevin's age, Kevin's timeline. I'm real confident saying that is not the direction they're looking right now. Even guys that have kind of unofficially fallen off their list. Devin Booker was on their short list before, but he had a bad year last year. But Houston for sure will be looking hard at Giannis if he is available. The San Antonio option obviously is a basketball fan's dream, potentially just that idea of Giannis being with Wemby. Now that number 2 pick changes the calculus, even better for the Spurs purposes if they want to dive in. Who else am I forgetting there, Logan, that you mentioned?
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I mean, that one's, that's the fun part of the playoffs is that is evolving in real time in terms of, Sam Presti and the Thunder. There's just no way for them to know how they feel about this current group just yet because we got to see what happens on Sunday. And if they survive, we got to see from there. If they go on to a championship run, that changes the way they look at their team versus falling out in the second round. But they've got the assets. They've got, the optionality, if you will. The Warriors, it's funny. I liked your story. I noticed that you wrote that anecdote from Steph's party at All-Star Weekend too. I will tell you, in all of my years doing this, I was there in person. So that was not sourced material. That was me watching Giannis walk up the stairs.
Hey, wait, real quick. I just want to say real quick. I saw Sam, and you're going to appreciate this from the call bank in New York, Howard. I remember seeing Sam right after, was it game 4? Game 4, because that was his last game in the Bay, right? And I remember having that, when you have something in the back pocket that you could just throw out real quick, right? That that you have in your story that you're about to have, right? And I saw Sam writing about Giannis, and then I read his story the next day because I knew mine was coming out Wednesday, and I was like, God damn it! I was like, God damn it, he did it. He did it. He wrote it, and it got aggregated.
It's funny. I forget how I worded it. I wrote a watered down version of it a month ago. And then I was like, all right, forget it. I'm going to share all the tea. But it was yes, it's Steph's party is right next to Chase Center at the Splash restaurant and bar that they have there. It's a Warriors event.
You're welcome, Raymond Ritter.
Yes. And it's almost midnight, and it's Giannis and his wife, Mariah. They come to the party. They go up the stairs, and the room kind of stops. I'm actually literally talking to Joe Lacob in that moment. And it was pretty entertaining to see Joe kind of turn and start having kind of hearts in his eyes as he looks up the stairs. But that being said, the Warriors, and my colleagues at The Athletic just put this out yesterday. All signs point to them being all in on the Jimmy Butler era, that the major changes are not the focus right now. They want to kind of build around their new big 3. So we'll see where it goes. Milwaukee is going to try to sell Giannis on basically what we'll call a gap year that my buddy Eric Name wrote the other day at our place. The idea that you could be an MVP candidate, have individual accolades for a year and let us figure the roster out rather than jump and ship.
That's not a great it's not a great recruiting pitch, right, Howard?
No, I mean he's what 30, 31. Like the idea.
Yeah,
of
let's punt a year
on a gap year when you're on the other side of 30. Like you don't have a lot of time. I mean, Giannis has been in the league long enough now and seen enough of these like little jagged turns in the road. Right? Sam alluded to it earlier where he kind of says something a little passive aggressive or whatever, and the next thing you know, Drew Holiday magically appears on the roster. And then there's another one of these moments a couple summers ago when our friend Tanya Ganguly at the New York Times, had the interview with Giannis where he started to allude to, well, if we can't win championships here, then maybe we'll. And the next thing you know, Damian Lillard magically appears on the roster. So like Giannis is smart. He's been around this league a long time now. It's hard to believe how what is he, 12 years in or whatever. I think he gets it. And I think if he had the confidence in John Horst, who has, of course, been the GM there for most of his career now, I could conceptually see it. If they could lay out, here's what's going to happen this season, but here's where it will leave us for the possibilities for next year, like maybe. And Giannis has expressed just enough affinity for Milwaukee over the years that I could kind of see it. But my suspicion is not that. My suspicion is this is the summer where it is going to break. And, Sam, you said it, like Logan, you said, like there's been nothing yet. Literally nothing has happened between Giannis and the Bucks that anybody knows of definitively. There's no trade demand. But Sam, I'll put this to you, like from what you gather of the situation, and you know Giannis pretty well, you know that organization well. I've always viewed this as when you have a player like Giannis or when Portland had Dame, even if you think the best path forward for the organization is, we hit a block, we hit a fork in the road, we'll proactively trade him. It's really hard to do. My general principle is you don't trade the generational superstar, the face of the franchise type,
unless you're Nico Harrison.
Unless you're Nico Harrison.
But then
nobody else should
Cooper
do this.
Coming. He knew he had Cooper. He was in the back pocket.
Stop. You don't do it in general. Nico Harrison being the lone exception in the history of the universe. You don't do it unless the guy says it's time. I'm out. And then if you can't talk him back in, you say, okay, let's work together on a trade. Giannis hasn't done that yet, to our knowledge. He's passive aggressively hinted at the possibility, but he has not said, I want out. Is there any situation or any possibility, Sam, you think that John Horst and the Bucks would proactively trade him? Or is this going to be like 99.9% of the other situations like this, where it's, you got to wait until the player comes to you and says, it's time, let's go?
Yeah, no, I think it's the latter for sure, Howard. There's, it's funny being close with, I mentioned Eric Name, our very good Bucks beat writer, and he's from the area. We have an editor who I think you guys know, Rob Peterson, with Milwaukee roots. Those are my two kind of Milwaukee filters lately, and it keeps cracking me up because, like, if you talk to those guys and get the sense from Bucks fans, there's this idea that it's like, well, unless you're getting Wilt back, then you're not trading on it. You know what I mean? Like, the fans don't.
It's going to be really hard to get Wilt back in a trade in 2025.
And it's just not something they don't want to let this man leave town, the fans. And I think the organization is reflecting that mentality. And it's funny, not to hit the rewind button, Howard, but the gap year concept, I'm curious how you see this, because one of the comparisons that has been made is, and you covered, the prime of Kobe's career is, there were stretches of Kobe's career where he was 1 foot out the door, almost 2 feet. And then he came back in and had to be patient and give it some time. And then they got power or whatever the next move was. Same thing, Logan, with Steph. Like, Steph has had moments. Now, it's easier to have a gap year when you got 4 titles or 3 or 4 at the time. That's the thing with Giannis, is that Giannis is so great that having 1 championship at 30 is falling short of where he was hoping to be. But that being said, that is the Bucks' vantage point. That is their pitch. The roster, this is maybe a slice of good news for Bucks fans. My feeling and my sense in talking to people, Giannis is not all the way out on this roster. He thinks the talent is actually better than what they showed in the playoff series against Indiana. I've even heard that he feels like the Pacers style of play and how fast they played and how aggressive they were that the Bucks should have had more of that, and that there's X's and O's things that he thinks could make this group better. So there's these little tidbits where you kind of wonder if maybe they can hold on to him. But to your initial question, like, yeah, the Bucks are not they're not doing anything unless he raises his hand.
And I just want to throw in real quick the quote that he gave to Tanya Ganguly a couple summers ago, where Giannis said, "You've got to see the dynamics." And he's talking about whether he was going to extend, and this is the summer before he ended up extending again. At the end of the day, I feel like all my teammates know and the organization knows that I want to win a championship. As long as we're on the same page with that and you show me and we go together to win a championship, I'm all for it. The moment I feel like, oh yeah, we're trying to rebuild, and then he pauses and then whatever. That's the passive aggressive, and it's not even passive. I feel bad even putting in those terms. Any superstar who has either not won titles or in this case has won one and it still feels like they need more, they want more, which is what we would all hope the stars would want. It's fair to always keep the pressure on. You should. And quotes like this, comments like this in a public sphere helps keep the pressure on. Not that the front office doesn't know that they have that obligation anyway. John Horst doesn't need to be reminded. Ownership doesn't need to be reminded. But when Giannis says those things, it does give you reason to believe that if the Bucks could not show the roadmap back to contention, then yeah, it's logical that he would take the next step and say, okay, it's time. And I think Dame's injury and the fact that he's going to lose an entire season, and by the time he comes back, he's 35? I mean, to me, that was the final nail. I don't see how you could. For
sure.
How does this era bounce back from that with no Dame for a year and the clock ticking on Giannis?
Just can I jump in and add two things? Because that all lands really well. The interview with Tanya, less than a month later, they had Damian Lillard. So that pressure absolutely had a domino effect. They had Dame, something that Giannis wanted. Now, the other thing that we've reported is that if Dame had not gotten hurt, there were going to be conversations this summer about him getting moved. There was a mutual thing like, do we think this is working? And I don't know what would have happened, but that was potentially a pathway for the Bucks.
To move Dame.
Yeah, to move Dame and say to Giannis, hey, he's still an all-star, 25-7, high-level player. We could get this guy and that guy, add some depth. The truth is, what we also learned this year, Giannis kind of loves being Magic Johnson. You know what I mean? Like, he wants, as much as he does love Dame, their relationship is good. Like, Giannis is at his happiest when he has the ball in his hands. So I think they could have sold him on the idea of moving Dame for more, depth, more role players, get stronger around him. But that pathway is eliminated because of the injury. The other thing that I think I'm overlooking here and we should add to the conversation, it's all speculation, but as we look at these different teams that could be in the mix, I'm fascinated by the Knicks situation because, we'll see what happens tonight in their game 6. They're having a fantastic year. But to me, if they fall short, anything less than a title, and in terms of knowing a little bit about how Giannis kind of sees the league, I think for sure that if he raised his hand, you would see Leon Rose and the Knicks taking a really hard look at that as a possible. I mean, they've got the depth on their roster. They've got the types of guys that the Bucks would, I think, have to look at in a possible deal. The Knicks, to me, are pretty interesting.
So with that, I got two questions on that front. So one question that you brought up was a really good point was what Giannis wants offensively, right? Like him wanting the ball in his hands, wanting to be a point center or a point forward, whatever you want to call it. I'll ask this question first. How does that educate which teams has an advantage at this point, right, in terms of roster, right? When you look down the line, I mean, I think about San Antonio where you have a twin tower effect, right? And it seems like they would be able to complement each other well, as opposed to maybe in Oklahoma City, who has bar none, has the best package to offer in general for a Giannis Antetokounmpo when you talk about the combination of young guys on rookie salaries and you have just a boatload of picks that they have. How would that educate where Giannis goes? Does he have a say where he would want to go? Packages be damned.
Yes, I mean, he has a say on all of it. And I think your question is very relevant because let's say it's a Knicks thing, right, where they want to make that one last final upgrade. Well, you're not moving off Jalen Brunson. That guy's a Knicks legend at this point. So you talk about usage and and who's going to have the ball. Jalen's going to have the ball a lot. Maybe that's not
the same with Shea, right?
Same with Shea. So then you look at Houston. The Houston one's fascinating because, and again, we're just early speculation here, but if there was a Rockets discussion to be had, they are well aware that the idea of like Şengün and Giannis playing together is not a great fit, and so I would anticipate in that scenario, Şengün going back to Milwaukee. Then, I think that maybe has more possibility. Right now, the ball is in Fred VanVleet's hands, to a lesser degree, Jalen Green's hands. There is more of a job opening in that regard in Houston than there is in some of those other spots. And the moment when I learned this season about where Giannis's head was at the most on this topic is, I don't know if you guys remember, he had this kind of quirky quote about when Dame was out about the cookie jar. And he tried to make this little forced analogy about how it's like when you're a kid and you have a cookie jar in the house. If you're an only child, like that cookie jar is all yours and you can put your hands in it whenever you want, get whatever kind of cookie you want. If you got a bunch of siblings, then everybody's going to kind of like, be a little more selfish and treat the cookie jar a little bit differently. It was a weird way of framing it. It was something that was talked about in Bucks circles that kind of informed his mentality. And yeah, I think it's something that should not be forgotten going forward.
I think one of the fascinating pieces of this here is, you've got, first there's the Giannis aspect of this. Does he want out? Is he going to ask out? If and when we get to that point, then it becomes, okay, where does he want to go? Does he have a list? Some cities were suggested to me, and I mentioned them on Zach's podcast, and it got aggregated to the fucking nth degree, and so I'm not going to repeat them.
Oh my God.
Aggregation. Here it is, Logan.
I'm not doing it again. But then it's a matter of, what does Milwaukee want back also, right? Like Giannis's preferred destinations are the first thing, right? Like, because it's not that he can nix a deal. He doesn't have a no trade clause, all that stuff, but you're always going to try to do right by the star and you're going to try to work with him on it. So chances are wherever he lands is going to be somewhere that he wants to land. But I think he will try to be a good partner in this too, which means that he'll work with Milwaukee on making sure that they are made whole to the extent that they can be. So the question I keep asking is, well, what does Milwaukee want out of this? We don't know. Do they want, like they have no control over their own draft picks for the most part. So tanking is not a great path for them. A teardown is not a great path for them. So do they want players immediately, like the idea of like a Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün return that helps them stay afloat in the near term and be at least competitive? Seems like a good idea. Plus, obviously, the Rockets are a candidate for this too because they've got a shit ton of draft picks that they can trade, and the Bucks do need draft capital. But what do they want? Do they want primarily draft capital, maybe at the expense of winning right away? Do they want functional, competitive players that they can either flip or just tread water with? Do they think, no, we're trading a generational star. We need at least a star or two back. Maybe not at the same level type of star, but we need star type players back. Like that's the thing where until you get to that point, I don't think we can actually answer that question. And the answer to that question helps us then determine like, okay, are the Knicks with an offer of Anunoby and Bridges in the running or not? Is that enough? The Knicks don't have picks to trade. The Nets have a bunch of picks to trade, but don't really have a ton in terms of players to trade. And if they traded them, then Giannis has nobody to compete, next to. So like it's complicated in that regard. It's not like you can just say like the entire field is open. Teams have different asset groupings to offer, and like that's why Oklahoma's so fascinating, right? Because if the Thunder fall short of a championship, and they've got a shit ton of extra players, their rotation is so incredibly deep. They've got more picks than anybody in the history of draft picks. Like they could make a really compelling offer, but you don't do that if you've just won a championship. Most likely. If you haven't, everything's on the table, and they certainly would be the most alluring for the Bucks, but would they be for Giannis? So like, I just think like there's so many variables here. It's really hard to game out as we sit here in mid-May.
Howard, just to put a finer point on that, the Bucks' best hope here is that every scenario that you are kind of mapping out and that comes across their desk paints a picture to Giannis of, hey, we get it. we love you. We're always going to love you forever. If you go to this other team, we're still going to retire your jersey, build a statue, all that stuff. But you are looking at being part of a 6th seed on the other side as well. You know what I mean? Like like they want every scenario to gut the other team. And John Horst is going to go for blood here. I'm telling you, like, he just got a new extension. He has the organization's backing. John is not going to just be trying to be on good terms with Giannis. He's trying to do right by the Bucks. That means that if every scenario in play, leaves the other team so gutted that Giannis might not actually be in that much better of a situation, then maybe that's where he looks at the room and says, all right, let me stay put.
Yeah.
Oof. How long do you think this drags out, Sam?
I think it'll be a while. I mean, like Howard said,
could we go if he requests a trade? Is it going to be like one of those dreaded like August trades or something like that? Could it go that long? Could it be?
Don't ruin our vacation, Giannis.
Yeah, I think mine, bro. That's gonna be them.
I got mid-July Hawaii plans, so that's probably when it's going to happen. I think we have the history tells us how this goes with Giannis, and again, it's because this is not the first time. He has a pattern of meeting with Giannis, his agents, his 2 agents, and then they sit down, they talk about how the Bucks see the future. If Giannis heard something he loved in that meeting, then that would be a wrap. And he says, I'm good. Chances are that doesn't happen. Then it's going to be, no, we need more, probably have a second meeting. I think he gives them a long runway to have that discussion. And then if all options have been exhausted and he still doesn't feel good about his current lot in basketball life, then comes potentially a trade request. And then, you've got the sweepstakes from there. But I do think it's going to take a while.
FanDuel is letting you get in on all the NBA playoff action right from the first tip, because right now all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend when you bet the NBA playoffs. That's right. Use your token on 3+ leg same-game parlay and same-game parlay plus on any NBA playoff game, and you'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. Let's take a look at the slate. Only one game tonight. Boston, New York. I think I'm going to take Boston. I'm going to take the over on Jaylen Brown points, rebounds, and assists. I think it's going to be a big game for him. And I'm going to take the Boston Celtics to force a Game 7. And I love betting on FanDuel with their great promotions every day, their safe and secure app, and instant payments. There's no better place to bet on all the playoff action in America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/RingerNBA and get a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend of the NBA playoffs. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 years and older and present in select states, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Opt-in required. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. I want to go back to the Western Conference. Want to talk about a team that we always talk about on this program. The Los Angeles Lakers. It's a team that you have been written a lot of great shit on. They are also in a bit of it's a weird offseason, right? LeBron is he's pushing to 41 right now. You got Luka coming in. There's LeBron's injury. There is Luka's shape. There's the JJ Redick angle. There's so many things that are going on in Lakerland right now. How do you think they're approaching this offseason? I mean, I know they need a front court guy. They do need some roster construction. Where do you see with the Lakers right now? How are they approaching the next few months?
Yeah, it is a weird time because when they made that trade, it's almost like I feel like we in the media are somewhat to blame for the wonky conversation around them, because when they made the trade, everybody seemingly said, well, Luka's amazing, but this is not the roster built, intentionally around him. So expectations were low, but then they played well. And then the defense was actually pretty good in the first stretch, which was pretty counterintuitive and surprising. And so then expectations skyrocketed to the point where it was like anything short of a conference finals appearance was a disappointment. And then they ended the way they did. And so now it's almost like even the Lakers themselves don't know how to feel about their season. Now their priorities obviously, so the LeBron thing has got to get clarified. Certainly likely to be back, but in what capacity? Is he going to pick up his player option for next year and head off into the sunset and retire after that? Is he going to want to talk to the Lakers about an extension? That is not clear. As of my last conversations with the people involved, the Lakers don't have clarity about what he wants to do. More importantly for their future, you've got the Luka situation on August 2nd. He's eligible for a massive extension. The Lakers are, they're ready to give him whatever structure and form of an extension he's comfortable with, but they would obviously love, and number one priority this summer is some kind of commitment from him beyond his current contract. Because when they made this trade, you guys know this, this part always gets skipped over. The reason, this does not absolve Nico Harrison at all from, how little he got in that trade, but the Lakers' pitch that actually worked was to the Mavs, listen, we have no promises from this dude that he's going to stay with us beyond his current deal. And as a result, you're not getting both of our first round picks. You're getting one, and you're not getting, somebody like Austin Reeves. And so that is why the deal looked the way it did. Because they've been through this before. When Dwight Howard came their way, whatever year that was, 2012, Dwight ended up bouncing to Houston after getting traded to the Lakers. So that's number two. And then the roster, you said, Logan, they need a big, we saw last year some of the guys they were shopping for and trying to land, and obviously the rescinded trade in Charlotte. So we'll see what they do.
Sam, on this, I know, we have to, it's our job to speculate and note, Luka doesn't have to resign. LeBron's got his option, all this stuff. Give us the odds on, I got two pieces of this. The first is there any scenario in which Luka and LeBron are not on the opening night roster of the Los Angeles Lakers? Any chance at all?
Not Luka's for sure on the opening night roster. And again, to be clear, his people, his camp continue to share nothing but positivity about his Lakers experience. And so the vibe there is good. It's just a matter of guys in how they want to handle their contracts. The LeBron thing, I'm in the minority. Yes, I think he's going to be back. I just think that, near the tail end of the season and the early part of the Lakers offseason, I did hear a few things that made me go, okay. In terms of how LeBron was feeling, his concern over this roster is, for one, he's had it in perpetuity, right? Every year we write about how he's not happy with the roster. But the part where I'm in the minority is the night that he gave his, when they were eliminated and he gave his press conference and he was asked what he thought this roster needed. And he made the joke about how, well, I'm not saying shit because the last guy who said something got traded to Dallas. Everybody laughed and everybody took it as a punchline. I did not. To me, it was humor. I was packaging authenticity with humor, and it was real because I think he's had real frustrations about the roster itself and has those going forward. Do I think that's enough to get him to go talk to Savannah and actually leave LA and try something else at the tail end of his career? Probably not. I have thought about Dallas as a place where, we know that, for one, I had a couple of people, again, joke about, maybe he misses his buddy AD and wants to go jump out there. That was something, Logan, I think you might have reported on it as well, that the Mavs this summer were going to potentially keep going down, this AD type of road, a 30-plus Nike superstar type player, the Kyrie, AD, LeBron, Durant, whoever it might be, and try to accelerate what they were doing. Well, now the Cooper Flag stuff, I think, changes that landscape. So very long-winded answer to your question, Howard, very likely that Luka and LeBron are there opening night, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I asked that because, sorry, real quick, the second piece of it was just that we suddenly, as soon as the Cavs crashed and burned, it immediately became this umpteenth version of maybe LeBron back to Cleveland. And I'm not seeing it, right? LeBron's family being settled in LA, he gets to play with Bronny now. Like maybe you could argue that he checked the box and it happened and he got his year with Bronny and now he could leave, or maybe he insists on bringing Bronny with him. I don't know, but the Cleveland thing seems far-fetched. LeBron leaving LA at all at this stage seems far-fetched. I have to believe that just the very fact of Luka being there kind of re-energizes him and gives him the more of an optimistic view. Like, yes, they have more building to do around those two. There's still a lot of work to be done on that roster, but the very fact of having another primary elite generational scorer, ball handler, playmaker type next to him gives LeBron everything he needs to extend his career and keep competing at a high level. It's like, I don't see the purpose of leaving at this point. It sounds
but at
farther.
Minimum, Howard, I'll say this, like, even if he stays put, assuming he does stay put, at minimum, I guess what I'm sharing is my opinion is that what I have learned in the sense of the dynamics between LeBron and the Lakers is that it's fine. Like, it is a marriage of convenience.
Sure.
Where,
yes.
That element has been kind of firmed in the past year or so, where I thought mistakenly that the Luka trade might spark this kind of like renewed sense of kind of harmony within their group. And no, it's a business decision. Like, he gets their platform, they get, the spotlight and the accolades and the winning to a degree that comes with him. But in terms of that relationship, like that's been the driving force behind me wondering about some of these other situations, is because it's fine as opposed to great.
To that point, Sam, how was LeBron dealing with the fact that, because the reason why he either in front of the scenes or behind the scenes always has this indecision around this time, it's for leverage. We all know that, right? He wants to have leverage over a roster and over a front office in the best way that he can. He's made a career of it. How was LeBron, to your knowledge, adjusting to the fact that he doesn't have as much leverage as he had maybe 2-3 years ago, especially with this being about to be Luka's team? How was he adjusting to that fact of, like, it's not the same relationship as it was when LeBron first got to LA. It's not the same relationship that LeBron had with the Cavaliers. It's not the same relationship that he tried to have with the Miami Heat. Is he adjusting to that okay? Is he adjusting to the fact that he doesn't have the most leverage in the room at all times? And by extension, his team doesn't have the most leverage that they're used to having?
Yeah, I certainly can't speak for him, but I think you're asking the right question, because I think, if you take out the off-court components, the business advantages that come with LA, the family ties in LA, Bronny, his entire family being there and enjoying life in LA. If you're just talking about your question, Logan, like, and if you pick LeBron up and you put him in a place like Dallas, he is now he's one of the guys, and he's on a fairly even level with everybody. He's a very smart guy. He knows that with the Lakers right now, it literally is a little bit more like, hey, like, Bron, we love you. You can stick around for a while if you'd like, but Luka is the future. Like, and they're not really running from that. They don't try to sugarcoat that or hide from it. He is the number one priority within the organization. And LeBron is somebody who is finishing out his career. If he decided to retire tomorrow, the truth is they probably look at that flexibility and that, and honestly probably get a little excited about what they might be able to do. But they're not stupid. He's a legend. He's in the GOAT conversation. If he retires a Laker, like I think he will, he's going to get some version of the Kobe, retirement tour treatment down the stretch. But yeah, the part that you're hitting on is, like, I don't know. I don't know how he feels about that, but he's smart enough to know that on the, in the pecking order, he's not the guy at the top anymore.
Welcome back to Pack Watch with Jomi, who is ready to make you feel worse about your team than you already do.
What's up, real ones? You know who it be, Jomi, back for another edition of Pack Watch, and we are getting the Golden State Warriors up out of here. And I knew when I needed to do this, that I had to stand by the printer, right? Because all I'm spitting is facts. Let me tell you something right now. I know Steph was hurt. I can understand, right? We're there. But let's just look at it, shall we? This is fake Demon FC right here. Jimmy Butler, oh, he the man. Y'all had Dwayne Wade liking pictures, calling him a fraud, dog. Dwayne Wade, the nicest guy we know. You D went on TV. I know. Pat out there like, it's not so green on the other side, is it? Jonathan Kuminga, they calling him Mini Mart because his game come and goes. You feel me? Like it's not all there. And Draymond, don't get me started on Draymond, bro. When it was Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, he had all the smoke. Right now, Julius Randle in front of you. Let me be soft. Man, listen, there's a lot of talk. A lot of talk for a team going home in the second round. That's all I'm saying. We packing them up.
And that was Jomi Adeniran with the Pack Watch. We'll stay in the Western Conference with you. I want to talk about it. We not necessarily talk about the series of OKC and Denver, but I do want to talk about Denver right now and how they're approaching their offseason, right? Like, you talked to me and Raja, we were definitely not on board with firing the coach and GM in the middle or at the end of the season. Howard was good with it.
I was not.
Howard was said it was a very shrewd move, and it should be studied for years to come. But how are they approaching this offseason, right? Like, is there any new news with the coach? I know Adelman's doing fairly well in a postseason setting, right? No matter what happens, whenever they play Game 7. What's the temperature in Denver like going into this offseason with so much uncertainty other than Jokic being on the opening night roster next year?
No, it's such an interesting, unique situation. I mean, the temperature is good. They are loving the fact that, not to go on Team Howard here, Logan, but that their unorthodox move late in the regular season, Josh Kroenke, the owner's son of Stan Kroenke and team president, Josh is the one, at the top of the list of people who made this decision. And I've gotten to know Josh a little bit, and I, it's his decision to me is so fascinating because he's like a boss who basically, got busy elsewhere, wasn't keeping track of his shop as much as he should have. And by the time he came back, the vibes were bad.
Whoa.
Yeah. And to his credit, and I tweeted this at the time, like, man, he did like a 40-minute press conference where he just owned all of it and was very transparent about it. But it was just like he got back and was like, oh, damn it. Like, this is partly my fault. But now that it looks like this, I've got to make these changes. And
he was Childish Gambino, like in that GIF where he comes in with the pizza and the whole room is on fire. That's exactly what happened in Denver.
Right. And now he's getting, kind of validated because I've been around the team a fair amount lately. I know everybody involved really well. And the vibes are really good. And a lot of this has been reported, but it's like, even it wasn't even a matter of people having to be on Team Calvin or Team Michael. It was the fact that, at minimum, the players knew that the people in charge were not getting along, and that just wasn't ideal. Then you had, players who felt like, Malone was making certain decisions based on, players that were tied more to Booth than him, whatever. It was unhealthy. So David Adelman comes in, as we often see with coaches. It's like he represents, it swings the other way, right? Like his personality is different than Michael's. His style is different than the previous coaches, and it's worked. He's a player's coach. He's made some mistakes, but he owns them. Ben Tenzer is the interim GM at a guy who's been at the organization for 16 years and is trying to empower and support and be pretty selfless with what he's doing. It's gone from too much ego before getting in the way to everybody putting their ego on the side. And really, the empowering part for one guy more than anybody else is Joker. And what we're learning is that this dude is actually a pretty damn good leader. And it feels like he's elevated, filled that void once some of this messiness got out of the way. So the vibes are good. I don't know what they're going to do. If I had to handicap it, I think David is in a very good position to remain.
Absolutely.
On the front office front, I can share what I have not been able to figure out is it does not appear that Josh Kroenke has really kind of done any legwork on a GM search. And I'm not even trying, that's not a criticism. I think it's revealing because I right now I feel like a world does exist where he looks at the current group and basically just says, job well done. You guys fix the vibe. You guys are qualified. I'm going to go forward with you. Now, we should also say, for context, the Nuggets, pretty notoriously don't feel like paying a ton for front office and even coach. So that would be convenient if they just kind of forge ahead. But, I am starting to wonder, maybe Ben gets the job. There's a guy in Minnesota, Matt Lloyd, is number 2 behind Tim Conley and had been tied to the job. I don't think there's been any progress on that front. So kind of waiting to see what Josh does. But right now it feels like he's just kind of on this ride with the rest of them.
And obviously their offseason is going to depend on what decision they make there to an extent, right? Like, who is the coach? Who is the GM? And until we know those things, it's probably really premature for us to speculate on what their offseason looks like, but we'll do it anyway because that's what we do.
Duh.
Because you're at Amy Poehler's studio. That's why you're going to do it.
I mean, Amy Poehler does whatever she wants, and being in the studio, I feel empowered now to do whatever I want. I just think that, so this is a huge credit to the Nuggets for forcing the Game 7 and getting this as far as they have with an incomplete roster, I think, to say the least, an incomplete rotation and a one-armed Michael Porter Jr. and everything they've gone through, right? Like, really incredible that they are where they are. So a Game 7 Monday night in Oklahoma.
Sunday.
They win that, and they're back in the conference finals, where I don't think any of us necessarily expected as of a couple of months ago. That in itself would be somewhat of an achievement. Jokic, unlike Giannis, has never put passive-aggressive quotes out there, and is a little bit younger, and has never seemed to be wired to be the kind of guy who's going to throw a tantrum or something and start making demands or demand a trade or anything like that. You get to the conference finals. I mean, I know Minnesota's often had their number, but Denver would have a fighting chance to make the finals again, and maybe that changes everything. But they, to me, have been all along in the back of my head, dark horse, maybe at least KD chasers. I don't think that they have the assets to get into the Giannis thing. I love the idea of Giannis there. I don't think there's a realistic path there. I'm not even sure. Well, with KD, considering his age and the small window that's left for whatever team that gets him, maybe it doesn't take as much. And again, now it's, what does Phoenix want? What are they trying to get? And are they looking for a ton of draft capital and all that stuff? Because Denver doesn't have a lot either. But I am curious about that. Like, where does this end up for them? And again, I just noted it. We don't know how far they're going yet. We don't know what Jokic's role might play in how their offseason is approached. We don't know who the coach and GM are yet. But are they a dark horse KD contender? And if not KD, we know they need to do something, Sam. Like, that much is clear.
Right.
However this ends up, even if they somehow end up back in the finals, this is not a roster that looks like it has longevity to it. Like, what's next?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, on the KD front, I think they've looked at that in the past, like seriously looked at it. So that does make some sense. They've looked at Paul George in the past. It's those types of players where they've thought about upgrades. Michael Porter Jr., of course, would be the guy going out in any of those deals. Contractually, he's the only one who makes sense. And then in terms of value, when he's healthy, he's a guy. He had a very good year. And so maybe you can get something done on that front. The question also, though, is like, do you go star chasing like that? Or since we've been killing them over their lack of depth for the longest time, do you just find a way to fix that? I mean, last night's game, I'm studying this box score and I'm just marveling. I was watching very closely. Howard, you can relate. Like, I don't know if your daughter enjoys NBA basketball at all, but
she does.
My kids don't a ton, but my youngest son really got into that game, and it was just, I'm telling him, like, this guy Julian Strawther, like, he's done nothing the whole series, like nothing. And then he gives them, 15 points in the second half, and they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth. When you look at their box, it's like Strawther's the only guy contributing yesterday in Game 6. Russ, who we all know is Mr. Roller Coaster, he's had some great games and then some terrible ones. Russ, who, it's wild to say it, has been their most important player off the bench. It gives you 4.
You hear that, Howard?
And
That's what I'm saying. I'm internalizing Raja, and the spirit of Raja just came through to me. But go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
I mean,
I was just thinking we need to get Mr. Roller Coaster on Russell Westbrook's basketball reference page. Can we get that added?
Listen, Howard, this is a NorCal reference, and Logan, you're a NorCal guy as well. He is the Big Dipper of NBA players. You know what I mean? Like little Santa Cruz boardwalk style. Like in
the warm California sun, baby.
But yesterday we were taking a little downturn, and it was 4 turnovers in 17 minutes. And, a bunch of plays that made you want to pull your hair out. So the depth is something that they got to fix because, certainly some of those draft picks that Calvin Booth was hoping would pan out better, than they have, just haven't.
I think Wilt Chamberlain already has rights to Big Dipper. So let's just go with Mr. Roller Coaster for us. So maybe the Demon that was is the Demon still at Great America, or is that gone?
Man, we talking about, forget all that. We talk about Medusa and Vallejo, dog. Y'all don't forget all that shit you guys are talking about. Anyway, I want to stay on Russ really quickly. There's some stuff that's come out about Russ over the last couple of weeks in terms of like his relationship with teammates and where is he in this locker room right now? Like based on your knowledge, right? There's always something. There's always a Russ factor. What is a Russ factor in Denver right now?
I see that look on Sam's face.
I'm just done talking about it's.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Let's do it.
He's calculating. He's trying to figure out how to do this.
No, yeah. I just don't feel like being
17 different conversations are in his head right now from other people around. He's just trying to parse them into something, just into one little thing.
I'm pulling a Howard where I'm like, I'm not trying to aggregate it here. Like it's here's where I'm going to start. It's crazy having covered this league for a long time. I've never had something where a player who was an indisputable Hall of Famer, incredible ball player. I'm in the group that voted for him MVP. Was amazed by what he did that one year in OKC. Have covered him all the way through. But this thing where he's the back end of his career role player, where you go Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, and like 3 different versions with these similar threads where like to some degree, all 3 situations were very sensitive with people. Like Lakers was the most seemingly toxic, not seemingly. Mm-hmm. He and LeBron clearly did not click. I don't know if you guys noticed the other day, somebody asked him a very vanilla question that had LeBron as context, and Russ kind of casually smiled and was just like, oh, I haven't talked to him in a while. So Lakers, was a negative ending. Clippers was a little more, the Clippers went to great lengths to hide a lot of the trickier moments that they had with Russ. They acted like he put his hand up and volunteered to come off the bench. That was not the case. They had to twist his arm. They had to push really hard. And so, he is incredibly intense and he is tricky in a locker room. And yeah, like we wrote about when they fired Malone and Booth, we had stuff that's already out there about the fact that one of the things that ended up tripping Malone up at the end was that he was giving the star treatment to Joker, to Jamal, and to Russ. And that locker room was like, wait a minute, like 2 of these things are not like the other. And that caused issues. The ESPN story the other day that Ramona Shelburne had, obviously, was pretty touchy in terms of some of the locker room stuff. So he, again, we don't even have to unpack it. We know the elements here in play. And, but because of the dearth of depth that they have, they're in this like complicated marriage where the part I kind of love is that we went from like legitimately when we wrote our story last month on the firings, I was of the mind of like, oh, they are done with this dude. They are all the way out. Mm-hmm. And it's hilarious that like a month later, it's just like these games here and there.
What did they say on Dumb and Dumber? You completely redeemed yourself.
Exactly. It's like, never mind, we're good. Even the way I heard, I think the ESPN story the other day, there was like some defense of him from the organization and some not, folks not happy about the way he was portrayed in that one. And it's like, I'm kind of laughing like, oh, now y'all are back on, huh? Okay. Like, but that's the playoffs. They need help right now. And he's pretty good at times.
He did okay right there, Howard, didn't he? He was a little nervous to start.
That was great. Not a single aggregatable quote there, Sam.
Good. Love it.
Yeah. Speaking of, to keep you on the hot seat before you go, I want to talk about hey Howard, Kings.
No, they're Kangs? I mean, Sam's the Sacramento guy, so he's got to be like the arbiter of this. But like, I would.
There's a permanent A, right? Permanent A.
It's just back. Like, I think they lost the A and the Z's for about 2 years, a year and a half maybe, and now it's just there in perpetuity again, isn't it?
Okay, Sam can't say it. Okay, we're going to talk about the Kangs.
No, come on, Sam. Weigh in here. It's Kangs again, right?
Kangs.
For the foreseeable future?
I've been informed through sources that my King's negativity is wearing thin and King circles.
Well, I got news for all the Kings faithful. It's coming. It's that's all you're going to get for the next few years based on the decisions that you've made.
Yeah, you don't. It's pretty simple. You don't want to be Kangs? Stop acting like Kangs. Get your shit together.
Earn that I. Earn that I and that S. Earn it.
Earn the I. There you go.
So what the hell are they doing? Let's do a temp check on the Kings. They lost their pick, right? And all the front office and all the, even the coaching searches is like, would be great if it was 2012, right? It just seems like they're in a time machine. What is the plan there? Are they going to trade, anyone there of consequence? Are they like, is there going to be a fire sale? What are the Kings going to do? They feel like, I don't know if they even know, but what the hell is going on right now in Sacramento?
I mean, my first thought is it's probably not fair to judge or criticize too much based on, the world of draft lottery, like representatives, right? Every team chooses one person to represent them at the draft lottery. I don't know. I can't name all 30 representatives this year, but to your question, I will admit that I chuckled when I saw, and this is no disrespect, he's a very good player, but when I saw that Keon Ellis was the Kings representative, I just kind of like, oh, that sounds about right. Like that's not, it's just, I don't know what it represents.
You know what it sounded like? It was like, oh, we got to have somebody there.
Yeah.
Is Keon in town? Is he free? Let's just put him there.
Right.
The Kings are a very, as Sam just alluded to, because they're not happy with being called the Kangs and being criticized. They're very defensive. They put their best defender on the dais.
Very well.
Not Malik Monk.
No,
not Malik Monk.
I mean, listen. I'll give the quick, car wash breakdown. Scott Perry, the new GM, I think highly of. I think has had a very good career. He's part of the Joe Dumars front office in Detroit that back in the day was part of that celebrated era. His time with the Knicks was interesting because if you look back at some of the moves, like he was on the front end of their turnaround, and even more to his credit, Scott, one of his best attributes is he's very good people person, and he's somebody who can work in kind of rot environments, if you will. And I'm not even trying to be funny. That is literally his number one value in the King situation is, and Howard, this is right up your alley. Like Scott Perry was able to work well with Jim Dolan in New York. He was able to work even when he was starting to get pushed out, by the Leon Rose regime. They were still, it wasn't like an either or type of thing. Scott became, a trusted voice in their very crowded room with the Knicks, and somebody who to this day still has good relationships with the people in New York. That speaks well of him. The reason I say all that is that in the Kings environment where Vivek Ranadive, their owner, is so famously, meddles and has been very influential over the course of the past couple of years. And a lot of their major moves after taking a short respite in the Mike Brown era where he kind of backed off for a bit, Scott's pretty good at navigating these kinds of waters. So of the things happening with them, I'm very curious to see what kind of work Scott can get done. The Doug Christie decision, just given my opinion, it's just, I mean, the look on Logan's face, it's nothing against Doug. I'm not going to lose any sleep or feel guilty about taking this perspective, which is, as a general rule, whenever you're hiring people who would not have a shot at the job with 29 other teams, you probably need to think twice about that. That's just not great process.
Or a third time, maybe a fourth time.
Yeah. And
I mean,
that's the thing too, is that, Doug, he's been on multiple coaching staffs where the head coach, independent of everything else, would never have actually hired Doug. He was an organization hire. And so that's the Kings, where the part, and now you got me to go a little more negative, admittedly, it's like, I'm just a little bit over the culture of how every guy in the 2002 roster is lionized for all of eternity. Like, they got to one conference finals. It doesn't feel like the healthiest ethos to make decisions through that prism, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, that's also extended to your Sac State Hornets, buddy. So,
don't
it's a
even
Sacramento thing.
Dude, first of all, I was going to bring this up later, but Howard, you like my coffee mug here? Buddy?
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Up,
what
baby.
world are we living in? The home of Shaq and Mike Bibby is
so weird. I thought for sure. By the way, I'm actually sort of disappointed I didn't get a text from you the day that they named
He
Shaq
was depressed.
Their NIL GM or whatever. Like, I thought for sure you were going to be like lording it over me, like, Sack got him, Davis didn't or something.
And they got him for free, Howard. He's not even getting paid.
That's some damn good negotiating on Sac State.
I didn't know you guys. No, you know what it was? It was like, yo, Shaq, will you do this? And like, Shaq's doing a million other things. Like, yeah, whatever. Like, if you need me to FaceTime somebody,
his son's going there now, so that's part of it too. But I mean, Logan, you're kidding, but you're not kidding. Like, that's literally that's the butterfly effect of this culture, is that it's like that group is just taking over the damn city, which is fine if it leads to success. It just obviously hasn't yet, and we'll see. And this, the Vlade Divac's being the GM back in the day, like, these are the choices where I'm just going to stop talking and watch Logan's face.
I just want to pipe in and say this, because Sam, I feel the same way you do about Scott Perry. Great NBA guy, great all around person, and somebody who I think can navigate these waters. And I'm wishing the best for Scott for sure. And I like Doug Christie, and I've always had a good relationship with Doug. But what it feels like to me in this moment is that the Kings and Ranadive specifically have not learned any lessons in the time that he has been owner. Some of the same bad habits in terms of the way that they're hiring, in the way that they're envisioning their franchise, in the impatience, in the meddling. It's just the same thing, different versions of it. And look, maybe it'll be a better outcome this time. I certainly hope that for them and for Scott and for Doug and for Kings fans who have been through enough. But the way that this organization has operated over the last 6-8 months in particular does not give me much optimism about where the Kings are headed.
Feels like 2012 again. Feels like when I first met my guy Sam, just how depressing it was. Remember those days? Remember when Keith Smart had to run on the court in the middle of a game to get the ad that fell? Remember that? You don't remember that?
I do.
Yeah, we wrote for that game.
Yeah.
That was geez. And I like Doug. We were coworkers at once upon a time.
When the late great Paul Westphal put out his own statement about DeMarcus Cousins that was not approved by the organization.
That was awesome. And then
yeah, I mean,
one of my favorite memories, I think it was when you go look at the picture of DeMarcus Cousins when he got his Team USA uniform. It was him and Rudy Gay, and they were, like, it was like a pregame thing, and they were like showing their jerseys. Look how depressed DeMarcus is, because he just hated George Karl so much with just an intense passion. Anyways, that was the Kings. Those are the Kings.
Sam had something. What was it, Sam?
Sorry, Sam. Sorry, I was just going down this memory lane. My bad, buddy.
Now I'm blanking. I forget what it was. I don't know. Oh, I know. Sorry. Like, it's not okay. Yeah, I was gonna say it's not this idea of kind of trying to trick the fans with warm fuzzy hires during times of peril. It's not a new trick. And I hesitate to say this because I actually think this guy's a very good coach and he could be a good Suns coach. But I was talking to someone today about the Suns coaching candidates, and Jared Dudley came up, and it did kind of hit me like that's if the Suns have a lot of negative stuff going on. Jared Dudley was a beloved Sun. He's a qualified coach. He's been in the running for head coaching stuff in the past. But like generally speaking, making decisions like the Kings have for so long now that are, disproportionately calculating or taking into consideration the guy's history with the organization and how warm and fuzzy he makes the fans feel. Those are not the things you should be focusing on.
Whew. It just took the life. Just talking about the Kings, I shouldn't have even put it on the doc. It just took the life out of this podcast. I'm just depressed now.
And you're going to get me in trouble. I'm going to get more phone calls. It's like,
you're fine. It's okay.
The downside of being, one of the few.
And then you brought up Ishbia, what made me want to talk about the Suns really quick. We got to go in a second. Can you just give me 2 minutes on Ishbia real quick and the Suns, like what they're going to do, like where they're at real quick?
I mean, Brian Gregory, their new GM, it's the same type of thing. Like, he would not be in the running for a GM spot with any other team. He has history with Matt Ishbia. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. Doesn't mean it hasn't had a good career. But longtime college coach, but Michigan State ties. It's the same type of mentality. Totally. I mean, and he's a much better example. I shouldn't even have brought Jared into this conversation. But Brian is. They went shopping for the Bob Myers types and learned quickly that somebody like Bob wasn't going to come. And I mean, I don't know where you want to take the conversation other than I actually, unless the Nuggets come calling for Kevin Durant, I'm not really seeing exactly where the Kevin Durant landing spot is going to be at this point. And Bradley Beal and his wife really like living in Phoenix. So I don't think that's changing.
All this brouhaha, they're just going to run this back.
Right.
Oh, God.
I mean,
as if this pod couldn't get more depressing, Howard.
All right, listen, we'll end on a positive note. On the plus side, still at this moment, at this hour, Phoenix Sun Kevin Durant did win the PBWA's Magic Johnson Award this week, which we were pleased to give to him for being.
What do you think that's going to put it? I'm going to see if you're going to put that on his trophy case. You think where's he going to put that under MVP?
I mean, I think it's like on the shelf right below the MVP, right? That sounds about right.
I meant to look. Has he acknowledged the award or no?
I don't think so, but Magic Johnson did on his social media feed today. So that was nice. Thank you, Magic.
Right.
Very cool. He should have tagged the PBWA. I would have asked kindly, Magic, but if you could tag us.
Well, you got his number, man.
Link to our press release. That would have been nice.
Oh, goodness.
But
yes, that would have been great.
That's fine.
I know none of my stories. I'm going to leave you guys with this because I feel like we're wrapping up.
Also, another thing, real quick, before you go, just after you say what you say, give Cliff some just words of just, encouragement for his Sixers. After you say your point up.
Got you. My Kevin Durant stories pale in comparison to Logan's. You guys have a really strong relationship. But in terms of his PBWA award that I do think is well-deserved, he not only was good with local media this year, but multiple authors of books. Mike Singer wrote his book on Nikola Jokic, and Kevin gave him a bunch of time for that. Chris Hine has a book coming out about Anthony Edwards that should be great, and I know he talked to Kevin for that. But whenever I think about my own Kevin memories, this one is always going to be on the short list. So the finals in Toronto, Kevin is hurt. It's not the final injury yet. It's the one that preceded it. And he's trying to get back. And I had sent him a note that said, hey, I would love to do a story. I think it was for game 2, like sitting with you and just seeing the game through your eyes during the finals. And it was one of those, like, to use the old.
It was a Hail Mary.
Yeah. Like the MJ thing, like you miss, all the shots you don't take. And so I'm curious if and I actually pulled this up. I'm curious if he had any interest in this, and I'll never forget his answer. He says, "You'll need a camera crew and Martin Scorsese to understand what I'm talking about."
Oh man, I'm gonna just say,
didn't get Martin, so the story never happened.
I mean, I will say
couldn't get Scorsese. Like, come on.
I will say this: KD is obviously, we know about just like the ups and the downs of covering him on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
But I will say he has been one of the most interesting players that I have ever been around. And I think every time I'm around him, I either learn something new, whether it's like, him going off on something that I wrote or, that's something that was that he didn't like that someone said about him, even on this platform. But like, I learned something new every time about like the modern NBA superstar and what that means. Like, he's just so transparent in that way. When you do get him, he's moody as fuck, but he is like one of the all-time guys to cover because you learn so much from him. And yeah, that's what I have to say. I think that he's good. I think I'm gonna miss him when he's retired in terms of like covering him. You know,
Sure,
For sure.
congrats to Kevin.
Okay, Cliff, do you have anything for Cliff? Because it's really depressing being a Sixers fan. He recreated the Daryl Morey meme in his house when that. Cliff, come on real quick. Are you okay, buddy? Just let's do a temp check.
He got the third pick. Cliff should be fine. Cliff, you should be
right?
you should be you should be rejuvenated.
You okay, Cliff?
I'm ecstatic. I'm happy we got a
Okay.
pick. Like I said, Howard, Howard, you watched the lottery, and Kevin Nagandi, my guy, my Temple brother. He had an issue with some bad information being fed in his ear. So for like 30 seconds, I was like, damn it, we don't got the pick. And then after that, the Mavericks sneak into the top 4, and he's like, oh wait, no, that means the Sixers do get into the top 4. So then they go to commercial break, and I was just happy. Listen, I would have been cool with 4. I just think, Sam, I had a little conspiracy theory about what happened with the NBA. The Mavericks landed the number 1 pick, and Howard.
Okay.
We don't need to do that again.
Howard wasn't going for it, but look, I'm just happy that we have a pick period, so I'm cool.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. I'm not going for it either. I'm going to keep repeating this on every draft lottery conspiracy conversation I have. The NBA needs to find a way to convince none other than LeBron James to stop being the one perpetuating this stuff. Because LeBron has done interviews where he literally talks about how him going to Cleveland was a conspiracy. That does not help when it comes to fans. You know what I mean?
He peddles conspiracy theories.
Right. Now, you should be happy you got your pick.
Absolutely.
The Daryl Morey picture that we talked about off air cracks me up because it's like if you didn't know the context, you don't know if he's crying or laughing or like you don't know if it's happiness.
I did it until I saw the video because I was like, I think we were at the game, so I didn't watch the lottery because we were both at Chase Center. And when I got the meme sent to me, and I was like, oh shit, what happened? Then I finally saw the video the next day. It's a lot more acceptable with context,
Absolutely.
My only other Sixers contribution is super random, but I'm going to share it anyway. I was watching ESPN recently, and I actually really enjoyed. I was a little confused about the timing and how this became a story, but they had a feature. I don't know if you guys saw this, talking about AI's famous practice quote. Did you guys happen to see this story?
Yes.
Man, Cliff,
Yeah.
Scoop Jackson did a really nice job contextualizing AI's practice quote. And I hate to admit this as someone who's covered the league forever. Like, I did not know all of the content around the practice quote. And I don't want to get any of the specific details wrong, but his best friend had been killed recently before that quote, and a lot of his energy in that press conference and the reasons that he missed practice and was struggling, they were just very heavy life things happening that, Scoop's entire story was essentially saying that Philly media, never really seemed to acknowledge the other real stuff that was going on. So just in terms of like Sixers history and I'm
speaking Cliff's language right now. You're speaking Cliff's language.
AI was vilified by Sixers media for the longest time. People started loving AI after he left in 2006, whatever year he got traded to Denver. I mean, AI was hated by a lot of parents, a lot of media. Like just growing up, people was just like, because he was a rapper too, so he just had all the. And then him and his wife had issues. Like they was super public with everything. And yeah, he was just a modern day, like, I don't care. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna authentically be me. I'm from Newport News. Like, but he embodied like everything Philly is. Like I swear to this day, he's from Philly. Like I'd be surprised when people say he's from Virginia. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And actually, now I'm going way down the rabbit hole. And I
All right. Go ahead.
I know. I do one more, Logan. Do I have?
Yeah. One more. You have the floor, buddy. You have the floor.
I think this is safe because listen. It's not a secret. We know that AI. He certainly liked to hit the bottle a fair amount, things like that, right? But
Club Friday, Club Friday, man.
I heard this story is wild. I heard a story about. I'm going to leave some of the details out, but I certainly trust the story. He plays pickup ball one day, like an off day, and in a NBA road city, and a guy just goes to the gym thinking he's going to work out with pro level guys, but not that kind of guy. He doesn't. This dude's wearing like a hoodie, and you can only see the eyes, and he doesn't even know who this dude is, but they just get on the court, they start playing, and he's like, this dude is busting my ass, and this guy's like an international level player, like he's playing overseas,
sure.
Not an NBA guy. He's like, this dude is busting my ass. He goes, I can't figure it out because he smells like the bar, and to the point, he actually had to sign a little NDA and not even share this. Well, then the hood comes off and he's like, my God, and it's AI. And then the next day he goes out and puts 35 on that team. He
had to sweat out that alcohol, man.
Yeah.
He had to do it some kind of way.
By the way,
but AI used to do stuff like that in the community. He would just literally pop up to the park or somewhere and just play and just hoop with random people.
Right.
Like it was, he was just a regular guy. It's crazy.
Did you guys see the Buffalo Bills did their schedule reveal? The bit was, oh, we're going to use AI to do it as a shortcut. We'll use AI. And then it's Allen Iverson. Go look that up. That was really funny.
It was funny.
Shout out to Justin Tinsley at Anscape, who, by the way, also did a story about the whole backstory to the practice rant on Anscape 3 years ago. Justin Tinsley did that story, which I think was the first time I had seen and read about just how much more there was to that scene. I will say, because everybody gets a lot of grief now of oh, people make fun of this and they should, okay, fine. But Iverson himself has now done multiple commercials and stuff where he himself is mocking himself, making fun of that moment. I think we can do both things. I think we can appreciate that there was much more to what happened that day that was very serious in nature and that provides some context for what Iverson was saying and going through. But at the same time, the sound bites are what they are. They are in a certain context, funny and a flashpoint and a meme and something that everybody references at some point. Ted Lasso had a great spinoff of that, appropriating it, which was great. We can have both aspects of this, right? It can be used in commercials. Iverson himself can make fun of it, but I think it's important for everybody to know the backstory too. So
now I'm just worried about Jim Mora and what he might have been going through when he was screaming about playoffs.
Sam Amick, national NBA writer at The Athletic, honorary Rowan. Thanks for coming on the program, buddy. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm studying the movies behind you. I'm going to go watch some old flicks after seeing that.
Yeah, we got, these are all the rewatchables that I have. Everybody, we're video now on Spotify and the Spotify app. So this is the rewatchables that I was on. Some little real ones, album covers, we're tapping in, man. We're just keeping it groovy, keeping it creative. Anyway, tap in with us on Tuesday. Roger's back. RealOnesMailbag@gmail.com. 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 Howard, Raja, me, Tuesday. See you then. All the shits. Bye. Must be 21 years and older and present in select states. For Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rghelp.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit MD Gambling Help in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.